Hello LEGO engineers, welcome back for another awesome LEGO project with Teacher Richard. I'm very excited for today's project because it's something that has been around for hundreds, possibly even thousands of years, okay, that engineers developed a long time ago, all right, and you still might use one today or you know someone who uses one, okay? It is the most efficient way to move heavy objects if you don't have a motor or battery, all right? And that is our wheelbarrow. Okay, engineers? Now, the blueprints that you have at home, okay, there might be a couple pieces that you don't have in your kit that are listed in this blueprint. So we're gonna come up with a couple modifications for it, all right? Because sometimes if we don't have the right pieces that we're supposed to, we can still figure out ways to make the project work the way we want it to, okay? Even if it looks a little bit different, it'll still be functional, okay? So we're gonna make some modifications on our wheelbarrows today, and we'll make sure that you can get it built with the pieces you have. All right, so let's jump right into it on step number one. Okay, so step number one, we're gonna take our two longest bricks with holes, okay, and we are going to take a medium-sized axle like this, and we're gonna take two of our rubber wheels, okay, and I'm gonna put both of those wheels into the middle of this axle, and then I'm gonna put the axle through the very end hole on our longest red brick. Okay, so we're gonna have it look just like that. And then we're going to take one of our 3-hole flat rectangle bricks, and we're going to put it on the 5th hole down on our long red bricks. Okay, so what that means is that we should have 4 dots that are showing, okay, on both red bricks. 4 dots that are showing, and then our 3-hole brick that goes across. Okay, engineers? And then we're going to take, for step number 2, we're going to take 2 of our flat, thin 4x1 bricks. We're going to stack 2 there, and we are going to stack 2 here. Okay, so we have just like that. We're starting out step 2. Now, for our modification, okay, on your step 2, it says to use 2 square bricks, okay? But you may not have those square bricks. If you do have them, then you can build it like the example shows on the blueprints, okay? If you don't have them, that's okay because we can make our own square bricks, all right, engineers? And to do that, here's what we have to do. We're gonna take 2 bricks like this, okay? It doesn't matter if they have the plus sign in the middle or the hole, the circle, okay? We're gonna take 2 bricks like that. We're gonna put them right next to each other. And then we're gonna take 2 more, right? Doesn't matter the color, doesn't matter the shape that's on the inside, as long as they're this size, okay? And we're gonna put 2 more, and we're gonna put these ones across like this. There we go, so we go like that, and like that. So this is what yours should look like, okay? So the 2 on the top are going this way, and the 2 on the bottom are going this way, okay? And you'll notice that this piece that we just made is the same size as 2 squares stacked on top of each other, okay? Because we take 2 of these pieces equals 1 square. So we put them going perpendicular to each other, which means they're going opposite ways. These 2 are going this way, these 2 are going that way, and that helps keep them all sturdy. Okay, so now we have the equivalent, okay, the same thing as 2 squares that we built. So now we have our 2 squares, and we have our 2 sets of thin pieces that we stacked on top of each other. Okay, so that's our first modification. So now we can move on to step 3. All right, and we're gonna take this piece that we just built, and we're gonna put it underneath on this gap right here, okay, attach it to our blue rectangle brick. So right like that. There we go. And then we're gonna take our 2 thin 4x1 bricks, and we're gonna put them on either side, okay, so the goal is that in the middle of those thin bricks should be our square, okay? And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So just like this, engineers, this is what yours should look like. And it's okay that the squares points out a little bit below the thin bricks, That is totally fine. Okay, so this is what yours should look like right now, right? So we can roll it, okay? However, if we wanted to load something on it, when we set it down, it falls flat like that, okay? And if you've ever used a wheelbarrow before, you know that you want to have some kind of stand so that it can stay up as you load things in. And then, instead of having to pick it up, imagine that there's some really heavy items in here. Instead of having to pick it up from the ground every time and lift it up, right, which means you have to bend down low and it can hurt your back, we want to have it up higher, so then it's easier to just lift it up a little bit and make it roll. We don't have to do as much work or put in as much effort, okay? So we're going to go on to step 4 now that those pieces are in, and step 4 is going to be our second modification, all right? On step 4 in the blueprints, it has us using some single squares right here, all right? But instead of doing that, we're going to use our 3-hole rectangles like this, and we're going to put those where that single hole brick should have gone. So we're going to put them underneath those flat bricks that I added. So this is what it should look like. Okay, now the important thing is that we want this hole right there to line up with the middle hole on this 3 brick. Okay, so as long as these are centered, okay, so that they are right underneath the middle of this rectangle piece that goes on top, we'll know that they're in the right spot for us to add our next bricks. Okay, so that is at the end of step 4. That's our second modification. Thank you for modifying with me. And you know what's funny is that I think that this modification is actually sturdier than the original model. So I think that it actually worked out for the better that we're doing this modification. And a lot of times engineers will build something the same way for a long time, and then they'll be forced to try a different way to do it, and then they realize, wow, that different way was actually better or stronger or faster or more efficient than the first way I used to do it. Okay, so a lot of times when you're forced to make modifications, that's how you learn how to make your projects even better. Okay, so now for step number 5, I added in our gray connector pegs. Okay, 2 on this side and 2 on that side. All right, and then we need to make sure that they're directly underneath each other. Okay, and the reason that we use 2 thin bricks right here, remember that it's 3 of those thin bricks is the same height as a regular rectangle. So you'll see when I put this rectangle here, right, it's a little bit bigger than the thin bricks. So we need to make sure that this one and this one, these 2 pegs, are the perfect distance from each other. And the only way to get that perfect distance was to use 2 flat rectangles. Okay, if you're wondering why I used flat rectangles instead of just a standard brick here, it's because we needed that size to be just right for this next step. Okay, because remember, sometimes in engineering, you can make modifications and you can try different methods to make something work, and other times it needs to be precise. And this is one of those times where it needs to be precise, which means it needs to be exact, because we're going to add one of our 7-hole rectangles. This is for step number 6, and we're going to add this onto those 2 connector pegs. Okay, so I'm going to slide it right on there. So you'll see that one connector peg is going in the top hole. The other connector peg is going in the 3rd hole down. We're going to flip it over the other way, and we're going to do the same thing over here. All right, so we have one here, we have one here, and now, engineers, we have our stand for our wheelbarrow, right? So now we can leave it like this, we can load stuff up, and then when we lift it, we don't have to lift it all the way from the ground, right? We don't have to bend all the way over. Now we can just lift it from here and lift it up a little bit and start rolling. Okay, engineers? So now our wheelbarrow is definitely functional. Okay, we can get it to move, it's sturdy, and we have our stand working. All right, so we have finished step 6. But now we need to build a compartment so that it can hold pieces, okay? So we have one more modification on step number 7. Okay, engineers, and here is what we're going to do. Instead of adding a square brick on the bottom, okay, we're gonna add our 2 rectangles first. So we're gonna go like this, to our 2 7-hole thin rectangles, like this and this. Whoops, we gotta do one more up. There we go. Like this and like this. And then we're gonna add a thicker rectangle right like that. Okay, so I put my two thin 7-hole rectangles right up against these pieces, okay? Another one below it, and then on the very bottom, we added a regular sized 4x2 rectangle, okay? So this is gonna be the slight modification for step number 7. We're using a rectangle here instead of a square brick, okay? We're also gonna have one more modification because in one of my live classes, a very smart engineer realized that there's a little bit of a gap right here. See that little gap there? So if we were gonna load supplies up there, okay, they might slip through that little gap. So to help fix that gap, we're gonna take a 3-hole rectangle and I'm gonna put it right there, connected to my 2 longer 7-hole rectangles. So now there's no gap where a piece can slip through, okay? So now we have all those. Now, if we loaded some pieces, some Lego bricks right here, okay, when I go to tip it up, as of now, they could fall down here, right? Because gravity's gonna pull them down. So we need to build up a little something to help make sure they don't fall down there. Whoops. So to do that, I'm going to put this rectangle back on. There we go. And then I'm gonna hold this rectangle in place with my finger, and then I'm gonna add one of our circle 4-dot bricks right there. Gotta twist it to make sure it's in the right spot. There we go. Okay, so now they'll be able to hold in the bricks that we want to move around. Okay, they won't fall out. So if I wanted to right now, I can start loading up some supplies on my wheelbarrow and see how it works. Okay, so let's load up, let's see here. Let's see if we can load up a crown gear, if there's enough room for a crown gear. So we can load the crown gear up right there, lift up the kickstand, lift it up right here. We can roll it around, and then we can deliver the crown gear right wherever we want. So if you want to make a little Lego construction site, okay, and you want to move some Lego bricks around to get to the construction site, you can do it like that. But let's say that the construction site is far away from where we're loading up the materials, okay? And we want to make sure that we can load as many in the wheelbarrow per trip as possible, so we don't have to make as many trips. All right, let's say we want to make it more efficient, okay? So if we want to make it more efficient, that would mean building up the sides of our wheelbarrow so that the compartment is bigger, okay? Because the bigger the compartment is, the more bricks we'll be able to fit inside of it. So I'm going to take 3 more rectangle bricks and I'm going to connect them all like that. And I'm going to move them all the way down right like that. Okay, so now we could add a crown gear, but we could also add some other Lego bricks, right? And as we make the walls taller, the taller the walls are, the bigger our compartment is, and the more pieces we can fit inside of it, right? You can even add some Lego eyeballs if you wanted to, okay? So I think right now I have about 7 bricks in there. We'll add one more blue connector peg. All right, we'll leave it down like that. Now we can lift up from the handle, roll it around to our construction site, dump them all out at once. We fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one more fell on the ground. So we could fit 7 bricks in this compartment. That's pretty good, right? Okay, if we wanted to make it even taller, we could add another rectangle like that. We can take one of my circle bricks and put it on this side. We can take one of my, since we already used our other circle brick, we can take a curved brick like this, right? You can use whatever pieces you want for this part to help build it up higher. Now we can see how many we can load up. You can also try to figure out, does it work better when you load up the small pieces first and then the bigger pieces like the crown gear on top? Or does it work better to put in the crown gear first and then put the smaller bricks around it? We can see which one which strategy of loading bricks in makes it so we can fit the most into one trip, okay? So I'm gonna load up some circle eyeballs. I can even load up a pulley if we want to. Can rest the pulley on top there. I think we can fit a couple more. What do you think, engineers? I hope that you're doing this at home with me, seeing how many you can fit. I know that in my live classes, some engineers were able to fit more than I could, which is very impressive. I would challenge you to do the same. All right, now let's load all these up. Okay, there we go. Our wheelbarrow's looking pretty full. We got a pulley, we got eyeballs, we got crown gears, we got connector pegs, we got regular bricks. We can roll it to the construction site, dump them all out. Whew, that was a lot. Shake, shake, shake. No more in there, double check before you leave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pieces, engineers, in one wheelbarrow. All right, I would love to hear how many yours can carry. I'm sure that you're gonna figure out ways to make your wheelbarrow longer if you wanted to. I'm sure you're gonna figure out ways to make your compartment taller, right? Think about how I can make my compartment longer if I add some more bricks underneath here, right? Some bottom bricks. We could make our compartment a whole lot bigger than the original model, okay? Do note though that as you make your wheelbarrow bigger, it's going to be a little bit harder to steer and maneuver, okay? And make sure that we're adding reinforcement bricks. Remember when we're connecting two bricks together, right? To help make sure they're extra strong. Now, I want to talk a little bit about why a wheelbarrow is such an effective project to move things around, okay? A wheelbarrow is a type of simple machine, engineers, and what that means is that it is a machine that we can use to help increase the amount of force or lift we can do, okay, when compared to just using our regular bodies, okay? So when we use pulleys, remember we were talking about how you can use pulleys to help make lifting a really heavy object like a piano easier by making a pulley system, okay? So a pulley is a type of simple machine, and a wheelbarrow is a type of simple machine that's called a lever, okay? It uses a lever. And the lever on our wheelbarrow is actually this handle back here, okay? And we can lift up the lever, right? And when we're lifting up that lever, all right, we're able to lift up way more weight in the wheelbarrow using the lever than we could if we were using just our normal bodies, okay? Just like we couldn't lift a piano with only our bodies, we need a pulley system to lift them up. You could put a 500-pound rock in a wheelbarrow, okay? And if you have the levers built right and your wheelbarrow is really sturdy and you had strong arms, you could actually lift up that 500-pound rock inside of your wheelbarrow using our levers, okay? When you would never be able to lift up that rock using your own body, okay? Because the wheelbarrow, this part right here on the handle is called a lever. And on levers, you also have something called a fulcrum, okay? Which is the spot where the weight is resting on. So on a seesaw is a type of lever, okay? And the fulcrum is in the middle, right? And you can go up and down on the seesaw depending on who weighs more, okay? The fulcrum on our wheelbarrow is actually the wheels. So the fulcrum is at the end instead of being in the middle, okay? So that means that we lift up the lever and the weight rests on the fulcrum, which is a wheel, okay? And because it's a wheel, that means that we can roll it on the fulcrum so we can lift up heavier items than we otherwise would be able to without the machine. And we can also move them because the fulcrum is a wheel. All right, so engineers combine two very smart ideas, the lever and the fulcrum to help you lift more items, and the wheel so that it can roll, right? And you can deliver things around a farm or a construction site. Even if you have to move something heavy in your backyard, we've used them at my house to move some really heavy stones that we wouldn't have been able to without a wheelbarrow, okay? And the cool thing about a wheelbarrow is that it's still pretty small. So in a spot on a construction site where you can't get a really heavy duty truck because it's too small of an area, A wheelbarrow is a great substitute because it's smaller, but it can still lift up really heavy items. And when it's built sturdy, like the one that you made today, it's not going to break. Okay? So I hope that you have fun playing with your wheelbarrow. I recommend seeing how many pieces you can fit in it, okay? And you can also test how good you are at steering it, because if you would like, you can make a maze or an obstacle course, load up your wheelbarrow with items, and try to get through the obstacle course to deliver the items to the construction site or the house or whatever it is that you are pretending to use your wheelbarrow for, and see how many items you can deliver, okay? And if you can get through the obstacle course without it breaking, all right, and without any items falling out, then you know that you've built a sturdy wheelbarrow and you've learned about a new type of simple machine called the lever and the fulcrum. All right, engineers, thank you for all your hard work today. I cannot wait to show you another project next week. Have a great day.